Hello, everyone. Colonel Domchowski here. We are going to talk about computing your pension. I highly encourage, if you have not watched it yet, please go and watch how to check your points and the 1405 service date because it directly impacts this training. I'm going to give you a very abridged version of this course so that you have the information you do need to go in and compute your own pension, but I'd highly encourage you to watch the longer training of checking your points in the 1405 service date because that really is your homework to truly understanding how to compute your pension. All right, we're going to move on here, and I will say if you have any questions along the way, feel free to send me an email to my work email, which would be todd.domachowski.1@us.af.mil. I'm the only Domachowski in the whole entire DoD, so I'm fairly easy to find. Please send me a question. I'm more than happy to help answer it. I do retire in about a year, so please hit me up before that. All right, here we go. Before we actually compute your pension, you got to understand which pension you're actually under. For the purpose of this class, we're going to focus on High 3, CSB Redux, and BRS. I'm only going to show you a calculation for High 3. And the reason I'm doing that is the CSB Redux, that is continuation service bonus / Redux, I mean reduction. That is for people who joined after 1 August 86, which would be me. They use the High 3 calculation. If you happen to take the bonus, so they would offer you a bonus at a certain point in your career, and then they would reduce your pension. You take the bonus, your pension gets reduced to 40% instead of 50% after 20 years, but then they recalculate later in life. Maybe not the best of deal for the member, but not sure. But I'm going to assuming no one took the bonus and it's going to use the High 3 calculation as we move forward. So I'm going to focus on that. And the BRS we're going to talk about, but not really show you the calculation for it. I'm going to give you the behind the scenes information, show you where the calculator is, and it's really the same information how to use it. It just uses a little bit more of the TSP matching contributions in BRS, and I'll show you that in the calculation here just so you're not confused. But I just wanted to let you know I'm focusing on the High 3. And once you understand that, you should be able to understand how to use the other calculators. All right, here we go. Again, we're using the High 3. Basic information for all this is understanding the math. It is a straight up calculation. You need to understand for those who are applicable in the CSB Redux and are not or did not opt into BRS, the formula is as follows. Years of service times 2.5% times your average 36 months of base pay equals your retired pay. And we're focusing more on active duty folks here, but a guard member can use this just the same. If you remember the PCARs from the last course, if you go under the retire column, you'll actually have all your points for a DSG retirement or a RC retirement or a non-regular retirement. They all are called the same thing. You could take that number, divide by 365 for a conservative method, you could actually get your years of service, and you could use this formula as well, just for a simple off-the-cuff formula. But in this scenario, we're focusing on those who are going to get to that magical 7,300 in the active duty column. What, again, talk about the first line. Your retired pay is calculated with your high of your 36 months of base pay. What the calculation will do in the future is make assumptions based off pay rates, because if you do it today and you only have 5 years of service, it's going to guess what your 36 months of base pay is. And I'll show you how you can play with different scenarios. It's kind of cool that way. Multiplier, as I mentioned, is 2.5, plus your 1405 service time actually plays into this. For those who did not take the course before that I mentioned, please stop and go watch it, because if you don't understand the 1405 service time, you're not going to truly understand what your pension could be at. And you'll get COLA, meaning you'll get pay raises. Cost of living adjustment, that's what COLA stands for. Focusing on the differences real quick, just to make sure you're aware of the differences between legacy, which is what me are under, the older folks. If you're not under blended retirement system, you're under what we call legacy. Legacy would be the 2.5% times years of service times high 3 of high 36 months, boom, done. So 20 years of an active duty career using that active duty column in your PCARs, or those for inactive duty who never left, will be 50% of your base pay. 20 years equals 50%. That's what the math comes out to play. And whatever your high 36 months is your high 36 months. It's all going to differ based off enlisted or officer or combination. The blended retirement system uses a 2.0 multiplier. So right off the bat, when you look at it, it's a 20% reduction in your pension. And I know people are going to say, hey, that math's not right. That doesn't make sense. Anytime you do percentages, you have to use 100% as your denominator. So 50% times 2 is 100, right? 40% times 2 is 80. So 80 divided by 100 is 20% reduction. Just want to make sure that was clear. But also at the same time, BRS and our legacy, to get a immediate pension or any pension in the future, whether it be a guard pension, reserve pension, or active duty pension, you still have to have 20 years of credible service. That does not change. BRS, there were a lot of things out there on YouTube, and that's why I put my BRS stuff out there on the YouTube channel. They're saying, oh, you can do it 10 years of service and get a pension. That's not true. To get a pension, you must still have 20 years of credible service. For those who are trying to figure out, how do I know when I have 20 years of credible service? Look at your PCARs. Your last column on the right is satisfactory service. Once you actually have 20, you actually have 20 years of credible service. Based upon your point totals in those columns will dictate, do you have a immediate pension or do you have a reserve pension or non-regular pension? All right. Some quick differences between BRS, just so people know, they do get matching contributions in TSP, the Thrift Savings Plan, and it's based upon a phased-in approach. Those matching contributions end at 26 years of service, so we're probably a long way away from someone actually reaching that in the BRS side. It goes to your traditional side of your or tax deferred side of your TSP. You can change that, I believe. It's all invested in your L fund, which is your life cycle fund, age-based, off your age when you join the service. It's not a bad deal. You get continuation pay opportunity at 12 years of service based upon the AFSC, based upon OSD, based upon DOD, based upon Air Force multiplier. A lot to play in that one. I don't have anything to do with that. But just so you know the differences, they get a 12-year bonus, but they have to stay in for 3 more years. And by that time, they think they got you for 15 years. So you're going to keep on going for another 5 years. There's also an opportunity to take a lump sum at your retirement, meaning you can get a upfront payment of your pension, in which then they reduce your pension. That is an interesting thing to talk about. I'm not going to talk about that. If you're going to consider that, please talk to a financial advisor, because they need to do some math to make sure it's what's best for you. And when I talk about financial advisors, I will talk about seeing a certified financial planner, a CFP. Those who, honestly, in my opinion, this is my opinion, pay or charge you on an hourly rate are your most independent and will give you the best information. Those who are attached to military, or to not military, but those who are attached to investment companies may not offer you the best insight, because one, they're going to kind of push their stuff first versus a kind of independent approach. Some out there, that could have affiliations with the military. Just do your research, making sure they do what's best for you. Fiduciary responsibility should be you first and their company second. So just do your research as well. The next slide just gives you more information on BRS as well. I know it's a little small fine print, but you can see all this on the OSD website, which I'll show you actually where that's located, because we're going to use that for the calculators. If you want some information on BRS, there it is. But really, we're kind of past that point, because everyone coming in today is under BRS. Those who have the opportunity to opt in, that's well past that scenario. So we're kind of there. Everyone coming in is under BRS, which is still a pension. Still a good deal when it comes down to the whole. When you look at the whole society, the American society as a whole, to have an opportunity for a pension is a blessing. It's a great thing. And BRS is a lower amount, yes, but with the opportunity for matching contributions in your TSP, it could be a really good deal for you. So it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, in my opinion. Terminology, making sure we all understand what I'm saying. when I say it because I use different terms. When I say regular active service pension, those are the immediate pensions, the ones who retire, reach the magical 7,300 plus in their active duty column, in their PCARs, their 80 column. They get the immediate pension, and that is where the 1405 service date will actually come into play. I will call it a regular and active service pension versus the non-regular reserve pension. Those are the ones that happen at age 60, or if you have qualifying active duty in support of a contingency operations can reduce your pension in 90-day increments with no medical benefits. You'll get them at age 60, but you'll get your money up front. This is when you use your retiree column for those non-regular reserve pensions. Just making sure terminology we're straight as we move forward. Before I move on, I have to do my due diligence and talk about the Survivor Benefit Program. Those who don't understand what this is you will actually have to make a option. You'll have to make a decision on this when you go into retirement. And based upon what you choose, if you're married at the time, your spouse may have to sign this as well to understand what they're giving up or what they're receiving. When the service member retires, they receive retired pay. Their spouse, their family does not receive retired pay. It is just for the member. If the member dies 6 months out of retirement, that retired pay stops. Unless you opt into the Survivor Benefit Program. This is a government subsidized program that allows up to 55% of your retired pay to be given to your dependents or whoever you happen to choose based upon the particular laws and coverage. It will cost you 6.5% of your monthly pension. It's all pre-tax. So what this will do is actually lower your taxable income. So when you file your taxes at the end of the year, you will actually have a lower taxable income because you did this Survivor Benefit Program. You could give it to your spouse, former spouse, children under a certain age, or if they have any special needs, there's a special qualifier for that. A former spouse based upon a divorce decree, insurable interest. There's a lot of different things. I am not the expert on those. That is actually an HR/personnel A1/FFS thing. So you got to talk to them about that versus the finance world. But I want to tell you about it. If you happen to have a one-income family and you go into retirement, you need to really consider this. I'm not going to say push it or not push it. I will tell you, I am going to opt into this one. I normally, when I give consults to people, I will give the pros and cons of this and kind of look at their holistic situation. And that's what it comes down to. It's a holistic situation. I had a prior boss whose spouse was 10 years younger than him. They happen to have a bunch of kids, less than a dozen, but close to a dozen. When you factor in male military member, female spouse, females live longer on average than males. So I believe the last time was anywhere from 3 to 6 years longer than the males. If it's the reverse, same situation, but different math. So I just want to kind of bring that up. So if you happen to be a member who married a female spouse who is younger than you, you have to add in the age difference. So in that example of my former boss, 10 years younger already, then you add 3 to 6 years, that's 16 years. That person could live longer than their husband. I just wanted to have you take a holistic approach. What does that spouse have in case you die before them? My spouse is a teacher. I have moved, just like all you active duty folks, I have moved over 10 times in 20 years. My wife stayed home with the kids, has now recently gone back to work, but teacher pensions don't carry over state to state. So she would have to work literally to like the next 20 years to get a pension. We want to retire together. So I say retire for me. I say retire in air quotes for her. She's never going to have a pension. So I know holistically, financial planning, I will need to make sure she is covered down in case something happens to me. So if I pass, she will get 55% of my pension. If she passes before me, I don't have to pay it anymore. It stops. If I get remarried, I can restart it. if for some reason, I'm going to retire around 47 years old, after 30 years of paying this premium, we'll call it a premium, you don't have to pay it anymore. You still get the benefit, but you don't have to pay it anymore. So it's one of those bonuses as well for those who retire early. If you retire at age 40 and you're alive at age 70, you don't have to pay the premium anymore, but your spouse will still get the benefit. So it's one of those kind of nice things to do. Look at your holistic approach. Look at what you have out there for your spouse. Do some calculations. Discuss this with your spouse because they will have to sign it away if you don't take it. We've all heard the stories of that military member goes into retirement. First 6 months later, they're dead. I don't know why. It's stress, lack of stress. I don't know. They just collapse and die. And I've heard stories, I'm just going to save for my spouse in a mutual fund. I'm going to put money away, and they die after 6 months and their spouse has nothing. There's an awesome calculator in this site. It sounds a little weird, but dinkytown.net. Dinky, D-I-N-K-Y, town, T-O-W-N, all one word, .net. Great financial site. I've used it for over 20 years. They have a calculator in there that says, how long will my money last? I have consulted with a bunch of friends whose spouses were younger than them. They said I'm going to buy a whole life policy. Well, whole life is an option. It is expensive, but someone will get your money when you pass. But the difference with insurance policies, which again, doing your research, is they don't grow with inflation. Well, Survivor Benefit Program does grow with inflation. As we get raises, so does your 55% get the raises. So if I live for the next 40 years of my life, I will get COLA every year of my life. So my pension keeps up with inflation or tries to keep up with inflation. So will the Survivor Benefit Plan. It will continue to grow with inflation, which is nice. Life insurance policies are frozen in time when you purchase them. They do not have an inflation clause. Most of them do not. They might offer those in the future. I don't know. I'm not an insurance salesman. But something to look at. Quick example. I know I'm getting a little long on this one, but I want you to have the information so you can make a informed decision to take care of your family. I had a friend of mine whose wife was 6 years younger than him. So now we're talking about a 12-year potential age gap. He said, I'm not going to take Survivor Benefit Program because I got an insurance policy. I have my thrift savings plan that I've been saving up for them. So I said, all right, let's run the numbers. You die. She's living 12 years longer than you. You give her your TSP. You give her this $300,000 policy. I said, okay, I'll call him Frank just for save names. Frank, how do you want Jill to live over the next few years? Well, he said, I want her to live kind of like we were living, say $80,000 per year. So I did all the math using that financial calculator that I told you about. I said, put 80,000 in there. I put the remaining balances that you can do. They continue to grow. You can put different rates of return in there. And I said, Frank, your wife's going to be broken. Is going to be broken 11 years. Broken 11 years. And she's going to live 12 years longer than you. So what if you die 6 months into retirement? He said, I'm taking it now. So holistic approach, you got to run the numbers to make sure your family is protected. And if you all live and died at the same day, at least you were planning on protection. You can't plan when death is going to happen, but as we know, Ben Franklin, death and taxes are going to happen. All right, here we go into Compute Your Pension. I wanted to tell you all that. Sorry for going long-winded, but I really wanted you to know that. From the RC world, I say DSG, Drill Status Guardsman, is an air guard term, an Army Guard term, but really just air guard. But we'll talk reserve members. If you go to my FSS, you click on My Retirements, and you click on Career Calculators, and I showed you the real icons there. The following things will actually show up. This will actually show up when you click. This is a snapshot of your career, almost like your virtual MPF, but it gives you some information virtual MPF does not. The top is just kind of stuff you've seen before. It's kind of a repeat from the point credit summary. But if you look down below, it kind of gives you some information. I'm going to highlight, before I go to the click, far right down below, reduced retired pay age. We talked about that if you're going for a reserve retirement or non-regular retirement, you have an opportunity to reduce your retirement age based upon qualifying service. You could open that up, and it could actually show you where you have potential orders that could qualify. If you move to the left, you can see a potential date and a confirmed date. I've actually submitted my orders in the past, so you don't have to wait till 20 years or when you're ready to retire to submit this. As you do an MPA tour, as you do an ADOS tour, as you do an AGR tour, as you do a deployment, go ahead and submit your orders to get confirmed. So right now, I am confirmed to receive my pension 4 years earlier if I was going for a guard or reserve or non-regular pension. Looks like I could add a potential another year. I'm not doing that because I'm going for the regular active service pension, but use that application to submit your orders to get it done. Okay, down below, I want to just highlight 2 dates before we go to the number 3 click. You can see a 1405 service date. Mine was computed and it shows up there. If yours is not computed, your TAFMS date, which is on the left, and your 1405 date probably will be the same. They probably should not be the same unless you have never had a break. If you've had a break in service, meaning active duty to the reserves, back to active duty, they should be different. So if it's the same, it's not computed, check your RIP in your virtual MPF. If you're above 18 years of total active federal military service date, go ahead, reach out to your FSS or my FSS, make an application or HR and see if they can get that computed for you. You can see the total active federal military service date. That is mine was recomputed based upon my active duty to the Guard, back to stat tour, boom, got recomputed. And in the middle there, TAFMS, that date, how you read that for your essay, and that's only taken at a snapshot in time based upon your anniversary dates we talked about, is 18 years, 5 months, 14 days. That's how you read those. 18 years, 5 months, 14 days. And that comes into play. So we go click, boom, this error is out for me. I can't use this. I've heard some people having success, not a problem, because if you read the error message, it shows you where to go, and that's where we're going to go to. But if it works for you, that's awesome. I actually had a member in ADOS check this for me because he actually technically is a DSG. He's an RC member on ADOS, and his aired out for him as well. So I am going to show you where to go to. This is where it takes you to go to. It's the military compensation, the OSD's website or the DoD website. This is where you can find information on the blended retirement system, different calculators. It is a one-stop shop for everything you need. We are going to, again, focus on your high 3 calculation. If you look there, there's a redux option, there's a final pay, there's a BRS calculator. All your calculators for your scenarios are there. I will show you how to do the high 3. Once you understand how to do the high 3, you should be able to understand how to do the other ones. So you click on calculators, it drops down, and you go ahead and as mentioned, click on the high 3. It's going to take you here. We are going to focus now only on those going for an active duty retirement. I'm focusing really just on the Guard members and the reserve members right now who have gone from active to reserve back to a active status, because I'm going to show you how to manipulate the 1405 service date in there. If you're active duty, pure active duty, this is not an issue for you. It's very easy to use. If you're in the situation and you're going for the active duty retirement, I want you to click active. Even though if you kind of read and hover over those, it will say for if you're an AGR, use reserve active. Please don't do that. I found this is the best way to actually do it, active. Here we go. When were you born? Boom, simple stuff. This is my information. When's your pay date? Your pay date will never change unless you truly got out of the military and came back in. I enlisted in November 1998. My pay date doesn't change. It is what sets up my longevity in my pay table. That will never change unless you say, I left the complete military for 5 years. I have now come back into the military. Like totally, you left the military. No reserve connections, you left the military. When you come back in, it will get recomputed. But for those who have just went from maybe active to reserves, back to active, your pay date remains the same. What's your current grade? I'm an 06. This box right here, Same as pay entry base date. If you're active duty and never left active duty, you've never been in the reserves, straight active duty, don't unclick the box because your pay date will be the same as your TAFMS date. If you're a member like me who went from active to guard back to active, then you would unclick the box. And this is where you input your 1405 service date. If you were a normal guardsman in my situation who went active to guard to active and doesn't have your 1405 service date, you'll still unclick that because this is where you'd put your new TAFMS date in there. So like my TAFMS date would be, if I didn't have a 1405 service date, going back a few slides, remember I showed you my dates. Highlight the circled in red is my 1405 service date, 2004. My TAFMS date that got recomputed because I went to the reserves is 2006. So if you have not done your homework and have not computed your 1405 service date, you would put your reconstructed TAFMS date in there. But you will have to unclick the box for those new drop downs to appear. And then you'll have to do some math, and I'll show you on the next slide how I did the math. You then have to select how many years of service will you have at retirement. And I did 22 years and 1 month. I'm going to click to the next to show you the math. 2 plus 2 does equal 5. That's a funny Pentagon joke for those who have actually worked in the Pentagon before. Anytime we submit our justification books to Congress, that's the president's budget that's submitted every February. We always put a disclaimer in there that numbers may not add due to rounding. So it's a funny joke I have. My wife's a math teacher. So it's hey, 2 plus 2 equals 5. No, it doesn't. No. Rounding. 2 plus 4 plus 2 plus 4 equals 4.8. Let's do the rounding. 2 plus 2 equals 5. Funny Pentagon joke. I have a dry sense of humor. I'm an accountant. So here we go, how I did the math for the bottom. Nothing changed there, but this is where you did your math. My retirement date, as I mentioned before, is 1 April 2026, minus my 1405 service date. How did I do this? You can do it 2 ways. If you can just go to your normal calculator, if you've never known, and I'm going to try to bring up a calculator here, I'm hoping it's going to show up on the screen. If you didn't know about this, if you go to your calculator and you go to those little lines to the left of standard, you open them, all these different calculators pop up. You could use the date calculation to help you compute this. The only difference with date calculation, it will actually give you years, months, dates, then you have to do a computation yourself. I find the easiest is to just go into Excel, open up a new book or worksheet, go ahead and do, I will tell you exactly how to set it up. You would do April 1st, 2026 in one cell. Drop down to the next cell. Put in March 22, 2004. This is for my example. Go to the next cell below. You're going to do a formula. Do equals. Click the cell that is 4/1/2026. Put the subtraction sign. Click the cell that is 3/22/2004. Hit return. It will give you 8,045 days. It did the math for you. In case you didn't know that, I've used this a lot in my career when I had to do cost analysis to actually get numbers of days. I found Excel is the easiest to do because it gives you number of days. So then what I did is took 8,045 days. I did the 2 just to show you the differences. I will always use the conservative method and use 365. So 8,045 days divided by 365 equals 22.04 years. I rounded that up to 1 month just for simplicity. If you use 360, like the red kind of talks about, it's 22.3 years, which might say 22 years and 3-4 months. You could put in there and see how their difference. I put 4 months down there. So those are the 2 things you do. You need to know your numbers. If you don't have your 1405 service date, you could just use your recomputed TAFMS date there, and it'll probably just come out to 20, 100% 20. And then you just put 20 down there. And then you'll click continue. This is one of the new screens that pop up. I'm telling you to skip this right now because unless you understand life expectancy, like I've talked about already, your TSP balances, rates of return, all that kind of stuff, this might be confusing to you. If you're in the BRS world, the blended retirement system world, this actually would be a mandatory part of your retirement package because you actually do get matching contributions. We in the legacy systems, we can contribute to TSP, but we can't actually get matching contributions. But you in the BRS world can. So just go ahead. I'll say learn. Go to tsp.gov's website if you want to learn. Everyone on a base should have an opportunity to talk to a military counselor, a financial, I think they're called a accredited financial counselor. They might work in your family readiness center. Please talk to them if you have questions on how to use this, because that could be its own class in its entirety and how to use this. I tell you to skip it because we're just talking about pensions here. All right, so I tell you to skip. This is where you can make some modifications. This is the cool thing about it. You'll see it more in the DSG example, how you can modify it. Using my example, since I'm so close to retirement, you really can't modify too much. But when you do your example, you can kind of modify what ranks you actually might get to. So for example, in 2025, let's say, hey, I get to be a one-star general. I could change that to 07. It will impact my high 36 months, but I just wouldn't be able to retire as a one-star general. You can make modifications. And when I show you the DSG example, you'll see how you can actually manipulate it. So the earlier you do this in your career, you can kind of map out your career and see what gates you make and what your pension could be. So you click continue. And all this is going to show up. This is a lot of information. I'm going to show you how to get to the results you're looking for when we are talking about pensions only. This screen is trying to factor in some TSP balances. First thing is under dollars, today's versus future. You can toggle between those two. The differences is if you click today, this will compute your pension in today's dollars, meaning it will never inflate. It will be the same. So if you use today's dollars, you'll see that your pension will never grow with inflation or with COLA. If you select future, it will grow with COLA. And I actually have selected it because it's highlighted there. I've selected it so you can see how it's using assumptions to inflate your pension as it goes along throughout the rest of your life. And then you're going to click on all payments. All payments is going to take you to the next screen, which will show you immediate pensions using future dollars. And you can see 2026 is my final year. I'm only going to be for a partial year. I retire 1 April, so only 3 months of base pay are in there. Forget about the TSP stuff. I told you to skip that. Just add it in. And go across, you'll see where the pension picks up. If you go to 2027, that is my first full year of pension. And that's what it's going to be. And you can see as it goes down, it inflates. It just picked a random time to stop. It could keep on going. I think it keeps on going. I just had to take a snapshot so I could just stop it at some point so it could be readable. But I don't want you to stop there. Taking the holistic approach, as I mentioned with the Survivor Benefit Program, take the holistic approach, determine your take-home pay to see what you're really going to take home at the end of the day after taxes, to see what you can afford for the future. Do you have to get a job? What kind of job do you have to get? Something you love or something that's going to pay the bills? Can you afford to offset a whole life policy for your spouse instead of survivor benefit plan? Can you afford survivor benefit plan? I can say everyone can afford survivor benefit plan, in my opinion. I started off as an E3. My first taxable year, I think I made $13,000 that year. I know what it's like to live. You now say I'm an 06. Yes, I'm an 06. It's different story. Retiring as an 07, or sorry, an E7 is different than an 06. I completely understand that. An E7 might be around 40,000 versus my 90,000. Getting the numbers, understanding the bottom line, understanding what you need to survive on so you can take the job you want to do versus what you have to do. Just want to get that understanding out there. Everyone is different. I want you to understand take-home pay because it impacts the bottom line. So the calculation to the right, you take my pension amount and I'm taking the Survivor Benefit Program, like I told you already. So right off the top, you're going to take $6,000 off my pension, taken away automatically, reduces my taxable pay. So now the IRS will actually only tax me on $87,000. So we use that $87,000. I've used smartasset.com taxes calculator to You select me in Virginia. I actually was able to put in my my zip code, and it was able to provide my federal taxes based upon what I put there for situations. So it gave me my federal tax, it gave me my state tax. Virginia does offer a reduced tax for military pensions, but I didn't want to deal with it at this time. So I just used the full amount. So federal minus state equals this. And what I just say, hey, there says FICA down there. Pensions are not applicable to FICA. What's FICA? Well, FICA is your Social Security and Medicare. Pensions are not taxed with FICA, so you don't have to worry about that being taken from your check. So bottom line, 76,820 divided by 12 months means take-home pay $6,400 per month. This does not factor in any disability that I may receive or anything, but just wanted to kind of give you that example. One thing else I want to talk about is what pensions are. Pensions are considered unearned income. In the tax law, unearned income. It's basically treated like interest from your savings account. It's unearned. It is treated a little bit differently when it comes to what you can do in the future with it. For those who know what Roth IRAs are or traditional IRAs are, individual retirement accounts. I'm going to talk specifically for the Roth IRA. You cannot use your pension to qualify for a Roth IRA. Roth IRAs say you must, if you earn X amount of dollars, you can put X amount of dollars into a Roth IRA, not to exceed the annual limit. For those under 50, it's $7,000 this year in 2025. For those over 50, I think you can add another $1,000 to that as a catch-up contribution. But if you do not make $7,000 worth of earned income, you cannot contribute to your Roth IRA. So your pension is unearned income, will not qualify you to contribute to a Roth IRA. You will have to find another job that will actually give you earned income to qualify and input it into your Roth IRA. Just want to kind of clarify that out there so you know that information. All right, next example, non-regular retirements. This is the RC world. Simple, reserve. Get started. I'm going to use my same birthday, my same pay date, my same grade, but I'm going to change how many years of service we'll have at separation, just to show you how you can modify it. I just picked 30 years and 6 months. This is where you have to have a plan. When you're doing this for the reserve retirement, what is your plan? How long do you want to serve for? And you can change it all you want. You can go back and go ahead and say, I want to do 35, or I want to do 25, I want to do 40. Go ahead and do that. But you have to put in a month. So you can't just do 30 years and leave that blank. You got to do 30 years and 0 months. It'll error out and won't give you an answer, so you'll know what you have to do. That just comes from your plan. And the next few will come from PCARs. These are examples. This is not for my PCARs because I wanted just to give random examples in there so that you can see what column it is associated with. So don't try to back it to my PCARs because it won't match. So active service. Look at your PCARs, your AD column. I put a random 4,500 in there. Look at your PCARs active duty column. If you go to PCARs satisfactory service, that is that last column on the right. How many satisfactory service years do you actually have? It won't let you choose more than the math. So using your pay date, it won't let you select more than 26 in my case. And then how many retirement points will you have that you have to date? Use your PCARs retire column. So that is how you line it up to input it. All right, next slide. This is where you can override stuff. This is where it's pretty cool. So using my 30 years and 6 months, I could override my grade. So say at 27 years of service, 2025, I make general. So I could put 07 and then it will fill in everything 07 for the rest. It'll just drop down, automatically change to 07. I could choose 08. I could choose different things like that. Then you can go to the right, active service blocks. For some reason, this defaults to 14. For those in the Guard, we are 15. For some reason, I think the reserves are 14, but for those in the Air National Guard, we are 15 and it should be 15. So you can go ahead and modify it. And here it automatically does it for you. It's prorated. So go ahead if you're in the Guard, change it to 15. But if you know if things are happening, like, hey, I'm going to go on deployment 5 years from now, I'm going to have a MPA tour, I'm going to have an ADOS tour, go ahead, put that information, see how it looks. I'm going to come up and do a stat tour at the Air National Guard Readiness Center, see how it looks. Membership points, you can't change. That's all kind of prorated based upon the time you put in. ID paid, that's inactive duty paid, so you can mess around with that one as well if you want. And then ID non-paid, we talked about that. That'll be the IDS column that you have in your PCARs. You can put the information in there as well. This will give you error codes if you try to exceed 365 in a given year. So please remember that you can't earn more than 365 or 366 in a given year. So for example, the last year with my 30 years and 6 months, it knows I'm only doing half a year. If I put in 365 points, it's going to say error, error, error. So don't exceed 365 or 366. So if you're doing a stat tour, for example, 5 years from now, and you put 365 days in active service, you got to wipe out ID paid and ID non-paid if you had any in there. If not, it will actually circle them or square them in a red box saying you made a mistake, fix them. Once you do that, click continue, and it will bring up, I skipped the TSP portion again. It will bring up the same thing. Go to toggle to future or today's, your choice. I recommend future. Click on all payments and boom, it gives you this information. You will see a gap here. You'll see a big old gap. This assumes I'm, again, a reservist, a Air National Guard member. It will have a gap because it's picking up when I hit 60. You'll see that my first full year pension is the one I've highlighted there, and I did the same take-home calculation. Did the SBP, did all those scenarios, did the take-home pay, again, just using the full state tax, and then did the math. Same calculator I use, smartasset.com. If you happen to have a local tax, check with your local area to see if it's actually applicable to the military pension, because some states, don't have state taxes. Some states don't tax military pensions. There's a lot of information on the websites out there that you can research what states have those exemptions. I'm a New Yorker, born there, north of Syracuse. I know New York State does not tax state pensions. Federal tax, you're always going to get federal tax, with maybe the exception of disability from the VA. But federal tax will get you no matter where you are, but places like Tennessee, Texas, Florida, they don't have state taxes just by normal. But some states out there will have maybe some benefits for military retirees, trying to kind of coax them into staying put where they retire. Like Virginia, I think up to $40,000, I think it is. I think it might grow in the future of your pension will be removed from your state tax equation. So there's different things out there to kind of figure out where you want to retire to in the future. So please get the take-home pay to get your holistic solution. That is really what I wanted to show you. It's all about bottom line, figuring out what you actually have to do to support your family, support yourself, live the way you want to live in retirement. So please do all those calculations. Understanding take-home pay is really a very important part because that's what you're living on. You want to try to get the job you want in retirement versus what you have to have. You don't want to have to settle for something just to pay the bills. We want to enjoy life in retirement, but we also want to take care of our family, our spouse, our children. So do research on survivor benefit program, please. I'm not going to tell you whether to take it or not. I want you to look at the math. Math does not lie. I'm a numbers guy. I've been in financial management for over 27 years, enlisted an officer. I've instructed at the schoolhouse at Keesler for the basic financial management officer course. I've taught many, many classes. I wrote a book. I try to give classes as much as possible on these things to empower you all to make the right decision for you. I just don't think we have the right calculators and the right amount of classes out there with the right amount of knowledge that will provide you what I'm trying to provide you here. So again, feel free to email me, todd.domachowski.1@us.af.mil. Happy to answer any of your questions. I wish you luck. I wish you the best in your math equations, but take a holistic approach. Talk to your spouse. Don't take them away from this conversation. This is a family discussion. You want to make sure you all understand what's happening. because we all want to enjoy our retirements. We all want to live a long, healthy life in retirement. I wish you the best, and I'm here to help as much as I can. And good luck. Take care.